out it was a direct sale company. I wasn't positive or negative about that. I just had never been around one. And I'm fairly open-minded. And Steve wanted to show me the compensation plan. So they get out this sheet of paper. It's got all this lapis, ruby, emerald, all these rocks and stars on it and levels. And you have to understand, I have an MBA of running companies. I have a background in finance. And so I said, hold on a minute, Steve, let me summarize this. I want you guys to write this down. This was my summary of the comp plan. The first time I looked at it, it holds true today. I said, let me get this. The more customers I create and the more distributors I create, the more money I make. The more customers I create, the more distributors I create, the more money I make. And I folded up the comp plan and I forgot about it. Because at this point, I wasn't turning my whole life into becoming a professional network marketer. I was not going to be a great team lead with New Skin. I was just going to make a little bit of money. Doing this thing is fun. You know, guys, that's all I needed to know in the beginning. I create customers, I make money. I create distributors, I make money. And I was completely happy with that. Here's where this thing changed for me. Remember I told you we had 2 hurricanes in '04. Well, I joined New Skin in '05, February the 28th. A guy by the name of Jonathan Hilberry walked into my store. It's 6:50 at night. Store closes at 7. He's going to be the last customer of the day. And he thinks he's going to walk out the door with $19 worth of product. Hey, I read The Greatest Salesman in the World. I'm not letting this guy leave with $19 worth of product. I'm saying, hey, you're a health-conscious guy. You need to stick your hand in a scanner. And we took money for the scanning fee, and then we signed him up on ADR, and now it's time to close the doors. And I'm following him out, getting ready to lock the door, and I said, you know what? Having talked to you, you're a businessman. Can I show you the business side of this? And we sat down and had a conversation. He called me back up at midnight, and we put in Jonathan's opening order. And so Jonathan and I started to play with this thing. That would have been the end of February, March, April, May. So let's fast forward to October of 2005. October of 2005, here comes the 3rd hurricane in 2 years, Hurricane Wilma. German and Dave and people and Jackie lived in Florida, and if you ever want to know how hurricanes track in Florida, you go to Google Earth and you find my house, and then you find my business, and you draw a line. That's the track of every hurricane. And so Hurricane Wilma blows the roof off my house, takes my big pool screen thing and puts it down inside the swimming pool. Trees are down all over the road, and power is knocked out for 2 weeks. They were sending power companies out of Michigan and Kentucky and Wisconsin to come down there trying to get the power back up. Every telephone pole knocked down. I couldn't even get into my business for 2 days. So finally 2 days passed. I've looked at the mess around my house. I'm going to hop in the car and go see how bad the business looks. I drive into the parking lot. The palm trees are down. There are no customers. I'm not going there to open my store. Nobody's shopping in Florida after the hurricane except at Home Depot. All they're buying is chainsaws and generators. So I walk into the store. The AC's been off for 2 days. It's about 110 degrees in there. I've got freezers full of organic steak, chicken, salmon. I've got a freezer full of Atkins ice cream. The stuff's coming out on the floor looking like peppermint swirls. And I am just irritated. Marines don't get depressed, but we get kind of rubbed raw a little bit. And I'm like, good Lord, does this ever quit? Because I went through it the year before. I knew my insurance had high deductibles. I knew the insurance company's not going to really help me out. So I'm loading up thousands of dollars worth of products into shopping carts and pushing it out to the dumpster and throwing it away. I'm looking at my business just in shambles. And the mail truck runs. The famous mail truck. And what's in the mail? I know what's in the mail. It hasn't ran for 2 days. The bills have been stacking up. So I get this stack of junk mail. You get more junk mail in a business than you do in a home. I get this junk mail and plus all these bills. And so I take it into the office and I'm literally throwing the junk in the trash can and laying the bills on the desk so my wife can pay them when she comes back into work. honest to God, the first bill was Florida Power and Light. First, you know, I'm in the dark getting an electric bill. Now, that'll irritate you. Think about that for a second. So now I'm really getting fried. I'm stacking bills up, and I get about halfway down the stack. And here's a letter from New Skin. See, today everybody does direct deposit, but in 2005, a lot of us received paper checks in the mail. And I opened up that letter from New Skin, and there was a check for $5,600 to a guy that doesn't really understand the comp plan, other than the more customers I have, the more distributors I have, the more money I make. I've got a check for $5,600. I literally walked out into the nutrition store. I'm looking at the check, and I'm looking at $100,000 worth of inventory baking and not being sold. I'm looking at the check. I'm thinking about, in my office, I have rent, electric bill, phone bill, water bill. I've got bills for products. I've got bills for insurance. I've got paperwork to fill out to renew my business license. And I got a check for $5,600. So I called up my friend Jonathan Hilberry, and I said, Jonathan, what are you doing? And I'll never forget this. He says, well, John, I'm drinking wine. Now, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. He said, I'm drinking wine, having a cigar. Now, I got Marine buddies that do that routinely, okay? You probably have cop buddies that do bourbon at 10 o'clock in the morning. But Jonathan Hilberry is like a health nut. Normally, when I would call Jonathan at 10 o'clock in the morning, he'd be juicing a beet or doing something with sprouts, okay? Or his yoga, you know? I'm like, you're doing what? And he goes, John, I sell health insurance for a living. I got 13 health insurance agents that are all trapped in their house. I'm not making any money. Now, the gecko, Hilberry, will tell you it was his idea. It was my idea first. I got it first. I said, we ought to do it. I said, go to the mailbox, get your check, call me back. So he gets a check for over $4,000 from New Skin. And I said, look, we need to go after this full time. I'm in the wrong business. This brick and mortar business that I was so proud of is the wrong business. New Skin works in a hurricane. I don't need employees. I don't need rent. I don't need any of that stuff. I said, you don't need to be shuttling around 13 sales agents that are not making you any money. In December, he gave his insurance business away to his best friend. I gave the nutrition store to my wife, and we started to really work New Skin. By the end of the year, both our checks were over $10,000 a month. And then I started to focus a little more on the comp plan. Now let me fast forward you guys to 1 April 2009. It's the next significant date for me. 2005, I joined New Skin in February. 2005 in October, I really joined New Skin. You understand the difference there? You may be doing this part-time, but at some point, you might really get it. It took me several months to really get it. So now it's April 1st of 2009. I still own the nutrition store. We got to run the lease out on that thing. So I still own the nutrition store. I'm in the store once again, throwing junk mail in the trash can, putting bills on the desk. And here's another letter from New Skin. Now, by now I'm doing direct deposit, so it's not a check. So I open up this New Skin envelope, and there's a letter, and it says, congratulations, John, you're $1 million earner. And I'm thinking, is this an April Fool's joke? And then I started to kind of calculate checks that they had sent me, and I became $1 million earner with New Skin. Now I'm not bragging that I've made $1 million. I want you to understand what this comp plan will do. Do you understand that my first thought was, wouldn't it be cool if this scanner would add $500 or $1,000 to my business? 4 years later, I've received income that most high school graduates work their entire lifetime to get. So a couple of months later, there's this big leadership conference up here in Salt Lake City. They've got about 3,000 New Skin people show up for this. It's a big thing. big convention, goes on for a couple of days. We got guest speakers coming in. Nathan Rick's up on stage doing wonderful